Promotional consideration paid for by the following. The Ohio Neck and Back Pain Relief Center, Scott M. Gray, D.C., across from the Marion Center between TSC and Kroger. For further information, dial 740-386-6580. Also located on the net at goodbackbadback.com. Dreiss Roofing and Contracting, LLC, located at 370 East Church Street, right here in Marion. For more information, call 740-751-9516. Specializing in roofing, siding, decks, garages, windows, pole buildings, and complete homes. For more information, again, call Dan Rice, 740-751-9516.
Remember you.
Here we go. Martha's just talking up a storm during the break. Martha, we'll be back with you in a second, okay?
I'll try to keep quiet.
No, don't keep quiet. We like you when you talk, but we're going to get the show rolling, and I'll come to you, okay, Martha?
It's thrilling to be on the same panel as Mrs. Jacobs.
I'm thrilled to be next to Mrs. Jacob over here.
You ought to be.
Yeah. I think you're right, Martha. And we'll continue on today. My goodness. The quizzer question yesterday was, what U.S. agency's food pyramid did the book Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy criticize for ignoring science and promoting obesity? That was the Department of Agriculture.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Charlie wins the booby prize today on the show. Now, we're going to go over to Charlie, the winner, for Fascinating Facts. Go ahead, Charlie.
Hey, I was on the web the other day looking up some information on the Popcorn Festival, and you know what popped up? The Popcorn Festival of Valparaiso, Indiana.
Ah.
Is that right?
It occurs during our Popcorn Festival here. And the interesting thing was, it was originated by Orville Redenbacher's followers, because he was from Valparaiso, Indiana.
Is that right?
And now, I think it was last year, we had his daughter as a parade marshal. So it's kind of interesting. And they have their own set of activities in Valparaiso, Indiana. Might be interesting to drop in on that one sometime.
Yes.
Gail Tumanillo is his daughter.
Is that right?
That's right, Gail Tumanillo. Interviewed her last year. Very nice lady. Going to head over to Marianne Michaels now for Words of Wisdom. Go ahead, Marianne.
Well, this week, as I said yesterday, has to do with imagination. And this is what George Bernard Shaw says about that. Imagination is the beginning of creation. You imagine what you desire. You will imagine what you imagine. And at last, you will create what you will.
Perfect. And as we all know today, what we all know, now pull the camera in on me, because this is when I get most excited during the week, right here. Because it is Tuesday, and it is Feng Shui Day. Marianne does her hot off the presses Feng Shui. People come to me on the street and they say, when's that Feng Shui show air? They don't even care about the rest of us. It's Feng Shui. Marianne, without further ado, it's the #1 segment in television today. It is Feng Shui. Go ahead, Marianne.
Well, I have to tell you, next week will be the last week for Feng Shui. I have it all this week, and then next week I'll have the last edition of Feng Shui, which is, you all know by now if you're watching, is the ancient Chinese art of living. And this is what the Chinese say about crystals. They enhance positive energy. Their striking colors reflect light beautifully, especially if they're sitting on a sunny window. So before you use those or display those crystals, soak them in salt water, and that will remove all of the negative energy in your house. The next thing, amethyst. The crystal amethyst reduces stress and relieves insomnia. So you might want to put those by your bedside. Of course, amethysts aren't cheap. A rose quartz promotes balance and increases creativity. Blue tourmaline releases blocked emotions. Amber protects against taking another person's pain. Hematite helps relieve stress during flying. So if you don't like to fly, you hate flight, then maybe you should have a little bit of hematite with you. And blue topaz, it calms the body and the mind and increases fertility. And the last thing is carnelian. Now that is like a kind of a dull red stone. And it reduces menstrual problems. I'm sure everybody's interested in that one. Next week is the last week, and I'll be talking about health, beauty, and love, according to the ancient Chinese. That's feng shui for this week.
Now, Marianne, I just want to get this right here. Now, hematite. What does hematite do?
Hematite helps relieve stress during air travel. You know, if you're afraid of flying in planes.
I thought that was amethyst.
No, amethyst reduces stress and alleviates insomnia.
Now, which one did it was the one before the menstrual cycle. Which one was before that? What did that thing do? No, did you say that, Charlie? Did I hear it wrong?
I got a hematite.
No.
I found a hematite in Alaska, and the backwater's kind of like near a glacier. And I picked it up, and it was just smooth, and I still have it. But I don't fly.
Now, what was the one before?
It was blue topaz, which calms the body and mind, and also increases concentration.
That's good.
Wasn't there something in there about increasing fertility?
Yes, it's carnelian.
Carnelian.
And I had to look that up in the dictionary because I wasn't sure what carnelian is, but it's like a cherry red stone. And are you familiar? You're shaking your head, Norma. You know about that? Okay, I didn't know about that.
I'll bring my hematite next week.
I'm wearing my amethyst today. Now what?
Okay, the amethyst is, it reduces stress and alleviates insomnia. Do you have a rough time sleeping?
No, not really.
Okay, then because you wear your amethyst. That's why.
Well, now here's the thing.
It
I'm trying to connect the dots on this because if you wear topaz, that'll increase fertility, and if you wear red, as in last week's episode of Feng Shui, you're amped up. You're ready to go, right, Marianne?
Yeah, this is a dull red. This isn't bright red.
A dull red.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's
So
almost reddish brown.
If you're in a relationship and you're trying to conceive a child, one person should wear dull red and one person should wear bright red, and you just better shut the curtains because there's going to be trouble, right, Marianne? No, that seems about right. I'm just trying to get the facts straight on this.
Well, you know, you have quite a nice memory. You know,
Well,
I'm surprised you remember all those things about feng shui.
Not every day. And when your toilet seat's up, I've left my toilet seat up since you did feng shui. I'm waiting for prosperity and money to start flying out of there.
No, you have to put it down because you put the toilet seat down when it's not in use.
I put it down when it's not in use. Well, of course I do.
That's why people without houses are never rich.
That's right. They never make any money. There you go. Holy moly. Feng Shui, our favorite
Well, you're only going to have to put up with this for another week. That's all.
It's good, Marianne. It's just, I think, I don't know. When you start talking about toilet seats, people go, well, okay, that's That's a little different.
It's now, see, now there are people that are listening today that don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Well, tell them again. I would hate to. Oh, you forget. You don't even remember.
But I just know you're supposed to keep it closed, because otherwise, I don't know if...
Here we go. Keep it closed. Just keep your toilet seat closed at home and good things will happen. That's all you need to remember. Now, moving on to a better, happier subject here. As we said yesterday, Charlie and George still do a radio show together. Charlie, how did that come about?
Well, the way everything does this accidentally. Every the last Saturday of every month, George is on WDCM with me from 7 till 9 in the morning. And we talk about Marion of the past.
Yes, we do. The
And
history,
it was a colorful place.
we don't have a script. We just keep talking. Charlie mentions a name, and I said, sure, I remember that person, and then we discuss it. And then I mention a name, and Charlie says, I remember that, and then we just keep, and we just talk for 2 hours.
Let's throw out a name here. This could be fun. Let's throw out a name. Doc Brown.
Robert S.
Robert S. Tell me about Doc Brown, George. Your run-ins with him.
Well, the one thing that I remember that Doc Brown was, he was older, he was a school superintendent, and we had a couple of run-ins, I catered a luncheon for a group of board members, the school board members, and some teachers, and he was mad about something, and he came in late, and I had the tablecloth, stemmed water glasses and everything, and Doc comes in and bam, he hits that table and all the water glasses fell over onto my food. And so I grabbed him and I said, Doc, was that necessary, And he says, oh, I'm sorry, Greek. He said, the food is delicious. But I called back and my people at the restaurant brought lunch right then because I had extras already prepared for lunch. And that was my first run-in with Doc. But he was a political guy, He was a mayor, and then he was a county commissioner.
No, he was a superintendent before he was a mayor.
Superintendent before.
He hired my husband and me in 1956. I was very, very young. Actually, I'd had a half-year experience teaching because when I graduated in 3.5 years from my college, and Ted was in the service at the time.
Sure.
So I taught in Ohio, in Martins Ferry, Ohio, for half a year, but he hired Ted and me both. And of course, I have a lot of respect for him.
Oh, I have a lot
And he
of
gave me
respect for him,
my
too.
first real job.
Is it true or false? I've heard the rumor that he ran for mayor the first time, took some years off, came back. The second time, he didn't accept a salary. Is that true or false?
I don't remember that.
I've heard that he didn't accept a salary.
He said, I'll do it for $1.
Yeah, he did something of that nature. I thought that was fascinating. Martha, I'm sure you ran into Doc Brown.
I sure did. I was drum majorette for him.
Oh, were
that's
you?
good.
Harding High School.
You'll be drum majorette again for Harding High School coming up this October at the homecoming game, right?
Yes, I've got myself, Elaine Everett, Dorothy Cooper Brown. We were the drum majorettes in 1949, from 46 to 49. And I called the band director the other day, and we had a 49th party the other day at the Brown House. And I asked Dorothy and Elaine if they'd like to be drum majorette at the Harding Band this fall. And they said, yeah, that sounds interesting. So I called the band director and I said, there's 3 80-year-old women who want to be drum majorettes.
Now,
He
Elaine,
said, we'd love to have you.
Elaine Everett lived across the street from me on Pearl Street. I haven't heard her name in years, but I've seen her she's a hostess somewhere. In Walmart. She's the hostess at Walmart. But Elaine would play with us back in it. It was Elaine and Marty and I are the same age.
See the tie-ins here. Charlie, Doc Brown stories. Go ahead.
Oh, several. The most prominent one, it was a morning of terrible snow, and I was on the air. It was around 7 o'clock, and we didn't know whether the Marion City schools were going to have school or not. And I was kind of mentioning that on the air, and all of a sudden, the door burst open to my studio, and in walked Doc Brown, and bang! He was good at that.
He had a good,
He said, if I can walk out here, there's going to be school today. And he left. And 20 minutes later, his wife called. I can't find Doc Brown anywhere. So I don't know if he got stuck.
Was school canceled that day?
I
No.
can't remember. No,
it
it
wasn't
went on.
He just got stuck in the
He got
ditch.
stuck,
He
yes.
got stuck.
He never canceled school.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
which I think is fine.
It's
I
fine.
think a lot of times, it's unnecessary.
But one time, it involved a municipal operation, and it was not being done quite right. And so I went to Doc Brown along with a friend of mine who said, things got to change. He said, how soon? Well, as soon as we can. Okay. And 2 days later, a person was discharged and a new person in its place, a very, very important municipal operation.
Norma, run-ins with Doc Brown?
No, not really. The first time I ever saw him, though, they lived on the corner of Bell Fountain Avenue and South Prospect Street. I was campaigning, asking him to vote for me. And, but the thing I remember about him was that he instituted the pay-as-you-go plan, raise the taxes.
Which is
first.
great.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember that.
And everybody, I remember that when he came, he wanted to be called Dr. Brown. He had his doctorate in education. And he
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
to be, you didn't want to be called Mr. Brown or Superintendent Brown. He wanted to be called Dr.
Dr. Brown.
And he's the only superintendent that's ever been called doctor. I'm sure.
Oh, really? I think Dr.
it-
Barney isn't
Well,
he?
Dr. Barney now,
Yeah,
I
because I
think.
think most superintendents have their PhD. Yes, I think so.
But most of them you don't refer to them as doctors.
Well, that could be true.
Well, I will tell you this. I recently, my run-ins with Doc Brown were toward the end of his life, but Mayor Kellogg, former Mayor Kellogg, was just on my little radio show I do not too long ago, and he said Doc Brown had retired, but he really didn't want to retire. Kellogg ran in the election after him, won, and Doc Brown wouldn't speak to him for a period of time. Yeah, I mean, he was a tough guy, and if he didn't like something, he was going to let you know about it.
I have another story with Doc Brown. It was a July 4th parade. We didn't have many July 4th parades. And somehow they convinced Doc Brown to ride a bicycle built for two with me in the parade. And so we did. He was on the back and I was on the front. And he kept saying, I want to see Janie. I got to see Janie. And he tried turning the handlebars, which did not turn. And he stopped pedaling, and so I had to force his legs to move. And we went like this all through town looking for Janie. I'll never forget that. I got pictures of it.
Dragged Doc Brown around town when he stopped pedaling. That's a good story. Norma, we mentioned yesterday the chump change story. You remembered it during our break. Tell us the chump change story.
Well, the fertilizer plant, excuse me, at the other end of town was putting out a lot of silt. It was like a fine powder that just went all over the place. And all the neighbors were complaining, neighborhoods were complaining, it was all on the cars. They had to keep the windows up on the car. Well, you can imagine what all happens with all that. And they kept bugging us at city council, so I said, well, we'll meet down on the parking lot, and I'll get Mr. Albert to come out and talk to us. And we'll sort of set up a little riot down there. And so finally, he said, he would put in some scrubbers and would eliminate all of this. So he did, and every time that I would run into him, he would say, "You cost me $65,000," and I said, "Chump change."
That's great.
But
I love that story.
But he was a nice guy. Was very. They talk about how tight he was and all, but he's done an awful lot for Marion.
He did do an awful lot, but he was rather tight.
Yes,
He had his moments. How much time do we have left in this episode? Okay, that's good. We can get into a current event here. I thought this was unique. Kate Gosselin. Heavens knows we can't get rid of her. Kate Gosselin is unemployed now that her reality show, Kate Plus 8, has been canceled. She's not handling it well. This is her quote. "I'm freaking out big time," she told People magazine. "I've never quit a job in my life. without having something else lined up, I don't know what's next. As you may or may not know, Gosselin can appear a tad harsh on the TLC show that made her famous. In addition to her personality, the 36-year-old's willingness to place her children in the spotlight has made her an unsympathetic personality to many people. Well, Kate's without a job now. Kate plus 8 is over. Now, how's she going to feed those kids? She doesn't have a job, Norma.
Didn't she say she could go back to nursing? Wasn't that her? Didn't she have something in there? Was that the one that?
Yeah, I think she probably could, but will she? It's a little different than TV money.
Oh, I'm sure something will crop up. Somebody will think of something real dumb and crazy, and there'll be a show around it.
And it'll be a hit. Yeah, I know. Charlie, what do you think?
Okay, I never watched Kate Gosselin on this reality show. And the same way I never watched the Kardashians. I am so sick of them flaunting their millions to the public. You know, it's like rubbing it in. And now the mother of those Kardashian girls is going to be on the talk program. That's all we need.
Yeah. What do you make of somebody who is famous for having a lot of kids? That's what she's famous for.
Who, Kate? Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, I don't know. What would you call someone who has a lot of kids?
Marianne, what would you...
Well, no, I think it's wonderful to have a large family, but you know, actually, I think she used her children to become famous, and I just didn't appreciate that. I could care less about Kate Gosselin. I'm sorry.
Well, what do you make of the fact that People magazine is following this? It's a story now.
Oh, you know, because people are interested in that thing. I totally agree with Charlie. These reality shows totally turn me off. And I've said the same thing you did, Charlie. They have this huge wedding, multi-million dollars. And there are people out there without jobs and people who are struggling. And to me, it's obscene. I know I've used that word before, but it's obscene. I'm sorry. And I don't care about the Kardashians, and I don't care about most of the reality shows. I just don't care.
George, you have 8 kids, and then your show's canceled. They're still young. They're still at home. She's lost her husband now. How's she going to maintain these children?
That's her responsibility.
Well, the reality shows is enough. But my wife always says, when we got married, 2 kids is enough. I got 2 hands, 2 kids, and that's it.
Well, I think that's smart. I think 2 is about right. I think 2 is where you should be.
Right.
Maybe Kate will call on her friend.
She might have
To
to.
help.
Yeah.
His name's Alimony.
I'm sure she already knows him very well. Martha, what happens when you have 8 kids and that's what you're famous for? This woman can't sing, she can't dance. She proved that on Dancing with the Stars.
Dance.
She can't.
No, she can't dance, Martha.
Oh, that's terrible.
That's the worst thing that woman's done.
That's the worst thing that could ever happen if you don't dance.
I don't even know why we're talking about the number of kids she has. She can't dance. It's just unimportant from that point
I
on.
had the ideal family, 3 girls, and I had my boy at age 44, Norman. What do you think of that?
Oh, that's
1975 came and I had a boy for my husband. And I think 4 is wonderful. I don't know what on earth I'd do if I had 8 children.
I feel foolish now that I was talking about the number of kids. The fact that she can't dance should have been the lead story on that, Norma. What was I thinking?
Right, Scott.
I didn't know where I was going.
When I was in my 20s, I would always go to dances all over Marion, and I loved it when the guys that were married couldn't dance, and the wives would always say, George, dance with me, dance with me. So I used to dance with some of the most beautiful women in Marion. I mean, I'm talking about the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. I loved it.
I bet you did. We got to move into the Quizzer question really quick here. If you answer the Quizzer question right on the Exchange Marion on Facebook, you get a free fish dinner from O'Michael's Fish and Chips, located on Mount Vernon Avenue in Marion, and a half dozen donuts from Andrew's Pastries, located 1282 Delaware Avenue, right here in Marion. Call 740-387-3830. Catch them on the net, andrewspastries.com. Quiz question today. What color sneakers does video game speedster Sonic the Hedgehog wear? What color are his sneakers? Charlie rolls his eyes at me. It's on the card, Charlie. I didn't make it up. Norma, what color are his sneakers?
Green.
Green, Charlie.
Purple.
Purple,
Well, I
Marianne.
know it's not silver because that would intimate being old, and I don't think that's an old. So I don't know. I would say fuchsia.
Fuchsia. George.
Blue.
Blue. Martha.
Sky blue.
Red, white, and blue.
Red, white, and blue. He might have three colors. I'll tell you what, we're going to get the answer man in as quick as possible. Today's answer, the world's most famous cemetery. That's the answer.
Oh,
What's the question, Norma?
What is Green Lawn Cemetery?
There you go. Charlie?
Where people go to hide behind tombstones.
Marianne?
where is Arlington Cemetery?
Washington, D.C., isn't it?
George, what's the question?
What's the question?
Yeah, what's the
Yeah.
question? Answer world's most famous cemetery.
Clarity.
But there you go. Martha, what do you think?
I want to say Marion County Cemetery.
Well, here is what it is. The answer is the world's most famous cemetery. The question, what is the name of a book that is the perfect Christmas gift for Charlie Evers? He loves cemeteries, Norma.
Does he?
Went right in the can on that one.
Okay, right.
We're coming back on Wednesday. See you then.